Welcome back to Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. I am your host, Eric Thomas. Today, we are once again coming to you live from DevCon in the Netherlands, and I'm excited to be joined by Josha van Reij, a project manager of data and artificial intelligence at Arcadis. Today, Josha and I are going to talk about how he sits at the intersection of project delivery and emerging technology. We're going to talk a bit about standardization, artificial intelligence, automation, and a whole bunch more. Josha, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good, Eric. And honestly, quite excited for this podcast because I've been watching Digital Builder for a long time already. So looking forward to this.
Well, I appreciate that. It's always fun to meet folks who have been watching and listening to the show, and very excited to talk to you today because you're doing a lot of cool stuff. So let's get deep into the weeds. When somebody asks you about your role at Arcadis, can you tell me, what do you usually say? And what part of the job do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what I'm really doing as product manager, data and AI is I'm trying to connect people. So we have product teams, we have clients, and a lot of different technology. And I'm trying to make it practical. So I'm really trying to make tools become practical for, real world use cases. And that's also actually what makes me excited. So seeing in a project that something is solved or that there is value for the client or for a project team, that makes me really excited.
I'm encouraged to hear that. And it's a really important aspect of how we deploy technology because the tools have gotten more and more complex. There's way more digitized, and I think that's an exciting point, but you have to make sure that you're enabling the folks out there using these tools every day and really understanding the implications they have for people both in the field and the office and what the expectations with those technologies are. So there's a lot that goes into just picking and choosing what technology to use, but also what you're going to actually deploy on site and how you're going to make sure that you're supporting your team as well. I'd be interested to hear more about the path that moved you from project work into technology and innovation. What really drew you in? Was there a moment where you go, okay, I want to fix this. I want to do this? Because it's a cool moment to go from, being out on the tools and into the field into a role like yours where you're really supporting those folks every day.
It's an interesting question, Eric. And it's a bit strange, but I think it was frustration. I was on the field indeed with people on the ground, doing the construction, in the office, making the design. And I noticed a lot of manual steps. A lot of things were done in a certain way, just because they were used to doing it in that way. And that is actually what triggered me to change to this role and really help those teams to solve this.
It does make sense. And I think we're at an interesting moment in construction where things were done the same way for a good reason for a very long time. And we're starting to see new tools that open up possibilities to new workflows, new approaches to solving problems. And I think as the labor challenges that we're facing in construction continue to become more impactful, as the construction and tech environment evolves, I think that flexibility and adaptability into new ways of working become increasingly important, but we have to be very intentional in how to set folks up to do that and make those changes. And I think also understand why we're asking them to change, because that's a big ask for folks who might have been doing or managing projects in a certain way for 20 or 30 years to suddenly say, okay, we're doing this different, and help them understand why.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. And but you see that's changing right now. So with all those new tools, all the new automations, that's really helping them a lot to change the way how they work.
So artificial intelligence continues to come up in almost every conversation I'm having these days. How do you make sure you're solving the right problems and not just building something that seems or looks cool? Like what goes into the choices that your team is making?
I think, first of all, I think indeed a lot of people like to look at cool stuff. But indeed, that's most times not what brings the value. And how I try to solve it with our clients and project teams is to look at, okay, what are challenges you currently have and how could we solve it? And based on that, really start looking at the tools to say, okay, this tool might solve your challenge and thereby really deliver value instead of looking, this is a new tool, try it out and see whether it works for you or not.
What are those conversations like when you're out in the field? Are people excited about what you're bringing to the table? Are they skeptics? Like, what's the day in the life?
Yeah, this actually quite surprised me a lot. So I expected a lot of resistance, a lot of people saying, no, I don't want that. But I think that's in many cases that happens when you try to push a tool into them onto them. But what really helps if you listen to them and you ask them what are your challenges, and then live show them this is how you could solve it. This is how you solve your challenge. And actually, engineers, both on the construction site as in the office, are quite willing to change.
Do you have any specific examples that you could share on how these conversations have gone, or some of the tools that you've deployed have impacted those teams? I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, I do think I have one example, maybe to connect it also to the AI part you just mentioned. So we use a lot of assistants within Arcadis, AI-driven assistants, and we try to bring it to the construction site. So what we're trying to do is we bring it to the engineer on the field, basically, and then we ask them to work with that assistant to give them inputs based on information on the drawings, and that helps a lot. So normally they scan through all the drawings, all the PDF files, takes them a lot of time. Now the assistant can just scan through all those drawings and say, hey, this is the drawing you were looking for, and this is the information inside the drawing that will answer your question.
It's such a cool approach, and I'm seeing a lot more internal assistants being created. I think I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about those in a few minutes. But I wanna dig into standardization for a minute as well. And I know you've given presentations on this topic, I think at Autodesk University, and your team spends a lot of time thinking about standards very intentionally. Tell me more about what that means in the real life on a project. Like, what exactly is getting standardized, and why are your teams going down this path?
If we look at standardization within a company like Arcadis, I would always like to look at it from a project level. So a project doesn't want to, for example, standardize because they have to standardize, but they want to see what does this standardization bring to me? So how is it going to make my project work easier?
I appreciate that too, because I think without that communication, people just go, oh, you're just telling me how to do this because you want to tell me how to do this. But I think when folks understand the intention behind qualifying that expectation, the conversation changes a lot. And I think you're also in an opportunity to show them what's in it for them, because you capture the data in this way, we can create more impactful dashboards. We can be more confident in the AI tools that we apply to your project. All of these kind of circular benefits that without the standards in place become much more difficult to confidently deploy on a project. So it's a very, I think it's a conversation versus just a intentional deployment of expectations.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And if you can show the value, what standardization brings, that will definitely help teams on the ground. Yeah.
How have you been able to make sure that the teams feel like they're not dealing with just extra administrative work and really do feel like their lives are being made easier? Because you might be increasing the amount of time that they spend when you implement standards. And I'd be curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main challenges. And it took us, I think, a couple months to find the way how to best approach that. But the best approach, at least that we found, is looking at the end picture. So what do we have to deliver to the client? And how much time do we spend on reworking things after everything has been done? And showing that digits to the people on the ground, showing, hey, after the project is completed, we have to do all this again. That convinced them, showing, okay, what if we do it here? That will save us a lot of time.
It makes sense. And I think anytime we can avoid having to do more rework, everybody's going to be happy at the end of the project. Yeah. So that's a pretty clear, tangible benefit as far as what's in it for them. If somebody out there is listening and they're interested in being more intentional about their standards at their own company, what's the smallest set of basics that they could consider starting with? Or do you have any broader advice on getting started and in successfully implementing standards at a company?
I would say don't try to directly standardize too much. I think that's something that happens a lot. Make very big policies and files that explain in 40 pages what the standards and policies are, but try to make it small and also implement it within the systems. So if you let the systems help you with the standardization, that will help a lot for the project teams.
Yeah, I've offered the same advice for folks who are even just starting their data journey and trying to implement a data strategy at their organization as well. Don't boil the ocean. Don't try to do everything at once, because that becomes much more overwhelming. and I think harder to convince people to join you in this journey. But also it just becomes a whole lot more difficult to manage because there's so much happening at once. So pick one area that you want to standardize, pick one area that you want to be intentional with your data capture, really do a great job creating this example for the company. And then on that success, you can build on it. You can deploy it to different parts of the organization, different aspects of the project. And in time, you cover the whole organization, but it's not a day one conversation.
Definitely not.
Well, I want to come back to artificial intelligence and just software more generally, because when we first spoke, you had spoken about your team has a lot of resources in its ability to create software, deploy software. There's a lot of really intentional choices your team is making. And in your role, you kind of sit at this interesting intersection of project delivery and technology adoption choices. How do you decide when your team is going to use an off-the-shelf product, something that you could buy, versus deciding to build something internally with the resources you have on your team?
That was a difficult one because we originally built a lot of software ourselves. We recruited a lot of developers, a lot of architects. But I think in this even faster moving pace, we really stopped doing that. So we try to first look at what is our challenge. Then we look at off-the-shelf products. So that's always the first thing we do. And of course, look at the cost of it. Then when we look at, can we integrate? So can we, for example, use something off the shelf and then improve it slightly, that it fits our need? So some low-code opportunities. And only if really needed, for example, for our client requirements, then we start looking at, can we develop something ourselves?
It's a really thoughtful kind of balance that you're talking about here. And I think, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, organizations were building a lot more of their own software because there weren't off-the-shelf options for them to use. But there's a real balance in resourcing that you have to consider, because if you do build this new tool, you also have to maintain that tool.
Yeah.
And you also have to consider, in a year or 2 years or 5 years, does this tool still serve our needs, even though it cost us $200,000 to build it or $1 million to build it?
Yeah.
And that's a really intentional balance. And I think there's a risk for folks too, where you get too married to that tool you've built. You go, well, we put all the time in it, but does it still serve the needs of your organization and your customers? And there's a real honest conversation that needs to happen, I think, at that point.
Yeah, definitely. I think we always use a quote nowadays within our tech organization, within Arcadis, is try a lot, but fail fast.
Yeah.
So you can try a lot of things, but if it's not fits your goal, just directly end it and start something new.
Yeah, and I think it's important to make sure folks know that it's okay to pull the plug. You go, this isn't working. Let's not continue chasing this if it's not going to serve our needs, because that's just more wasted resources, more wasted time. And so your team's being really intentional. It's really cool to hear that. Do you have any guidance for folks out there where there might be a really obvious red flag that a tool looks great in a demo that they're evaluating, but might not actually show up well on site or in the workflows that you're doing? Like, how do you evaluate the tools that cross your desk?
I think actually one thing you already mentioned a bit, I think if it looks too perfect, it's not true. So a lot of demos look like the process from begin to end is very smooth. You put in a little bit of data and you get the perfect answer. It's never the case.
Yeah.
So when we talk with vendors, with companies, we actually prefer to choose companies that actually have a flaw in their demo, showing, oh, for some reason the tool didn't work here. Because that are actually the companies that try to solve our day-to-day challenges, because projects don't have perfect data.
Absolutely not. Yeah. The reality of being out on a construction project is very different from what happens, at a conference room when you're looking at a tool. And I think it's important to figure out what technology is going to adapt and fit your use case, and which ones don't seem realistic or feasible when you're actually out in the field getting the work done. And you mentioned a few minutes ago the assistance that your team uses internally, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, because I think it's an interesting use case for artificial intelligence, and a lot of companies are exploring similar paths where they're creating internal assistants. And so what's the difference between creating an assistant or agent that's simply interesting versus one that really helps people get their work done? I'd be curious how you go about creating these tools to ensure that they're effective and useful versus just a simple database of information? Like, tell me more about how you build these.
I think two key elements, if you ask me at least, are one is connected to the right quality data and not just from one system. So where it goes wrong in many cases is, for example, you connect our system to purely Autodesk Forma, for example, or to some other vendor. But then you only get half-baked answers, basically, from that assistant. So try to connect it to multiple sources, also internal policies and standards. And the second one is, it really needs to fit a purpose. So the assistant to know the project context, what is happening in the project and what the requirements from the client are. If that's inside that one assistant, then the answers and the value that it adds will be way bigger.
Are you making assistants based on individual projects versus the entire organization? Just kind of curious how that's showing up.
Good question. We do create it on a use case level, so it's through the entire organization. But depending on the user that accesses it, it will filter down on their projects and their data.
Got it. It's an interesting intention behind the tools you're creating to make sure that they're serving the different folks that are using them too, because I think we have to be very deliberate about what we put into the tools, but also guiding folks on how to use them, when to use them, and kind of everything that comes with that. Let's look ahead a little bit. I think I'd love to get your opinion as somebody who's so tech savvy. Looking ahead 1 to 5 years, what tech advancement do you hope changes how teams get their work done every day? And what do you think people are underestimating right now?
I'm not sure if it's being underestimated, but at least in the first coming 1 to 2 years, you really see that their workflows are changing. So an engineer and designer, the way how they currently do the work is going to change. So parts of it's going to be automated. So the assistants, AI is going to be there to help them do their current job. And for some roles, like cost management, you see already that a lot is being replaced by AI. But it only means they can add more value in different ways of working.
Yeah.
And if you look longer term, I think 2 to 5 years, then it will start helping also with the designing itself. Of course, it won't fully replace creating 3D models, but it will also help, for example, automatically create certain areas of your design.
Yeah, I think the conversation is really about augmentation. It's not a full-on replacement. It's like, how do you unlock opportunities to be more effective? How are you going to get your work done faster? And I think the interconnection you were talking about earlier in making sure your tools are all connected and the data you're using and the different software platforms, I think that becomes increasingly important as we get further and further down this AI conversation that everybody seems to be having.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Well, Josha, I've got one final question for you today. What's one tool that you use in every project, no matter what you're working on?
I would say try to get people to talk. So what I really notice is that people that talk less, they actually in most cases have the right answers or they know a lot of information. So I always try to let people talk and then of course listen well to them. I think that's the core tool that I try to use.
I love that. It's a very much centered on communication, ensuring that people are given the opportunity to share the information that they have and given a very deliberate safe space to do that as well. And I think in my experience too, a lot of people have very different approaches to how they communicate. And some people want to listen and share something later. Some people are more interested in the moment and being a big part of the conversation. And I think giving everybody the opportunity to communicate in the way that they're most comfortable with also gets you all that information you're talking about and puts them in a really good position.
Definitely.
Well, I love it. Well, Josha, it's been really great catching up with you and hearing a bit about your role here at Arcadis. And I'm very grateful for you joining me here at DevCon today. For everybody out there listening, of course, you've likely figured out you are listening to Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. We're in an absolutely beautiful space in the lovely city of Amsterdam today. So make sure you head over to YouTube and listen to us and check that out. And if you have any questions for me, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Eric Thomas that works at Autodesk. Until the next time, goodbye.
Thanks, Eric.